Hello everybody, I'm Steve and welcome to Green Side Up. Yes, sitting down on a job again, lazy bugger I am. But anyway, I was sat here just 4 or 5 days ago and I was sowing into these mushroom trays like I do at this time of year for baby lettuce leaves, and I sow them every couple of weeks from now on, right the way through for as long as I can get them to germinate really, because these sat at home in my greenhouse provide us with fresh greens if I can't get down to the plot through the winter. So if we're frosted in, iced in, snowed in, or for whatever reason I've got to stay at home, so that's very handy. And then I went on and I sowed some microgreens which have been supplied to me by Grow Seed, and I've got them going, they're up there, and we'll have a little look at them in a little while. But on the strength of that video, people were watching it and enjoying it, and that's all good. But there was a guy called Ian McAndrew from a company called Grown Local who saw the video, and he sent me an email late that night apologising for the late email, but it's all right, that was fine. But he wanted to send me some trays. Now, some of you may know the name because over on Tony Smith's channel, he did the same thing. He sent some items to Tony as well for the very same reason. So I've got those items now, we'll have a quick look at them and then we can move on and do something with them. So this is the box that was sent to me, and I've been given some, very kindly been given some items which I'll just pull out and then we'll have a closer look at. Right, so what we've got here is a series of trays, and what they are, as you can see, one has holes in and one doesn't. And the idea is that this is your reservoir tray, and the one with the holes in goes inside, and there's a good sort of, it must be 5 or 6 millimeter gap underneath the lowest point of this, so that you can hold and store a reservoir of water underneath it to keep your microgreens watered. Now, he's also sent me some pea tendrils, that's what they're called. Basically they're peas, and you grow them for the pea shoots, but you're growing them at a much smaller height, so you're actually growing a physical shoot that you're going to eat, which, you know, that's what microgreens are. But they need soaking before I can use them. And in here is a coir block. Now, I've only used coir very sparingly in the past. I've never actually had to do this, unwrap one and soak it before using it. Never had to do that before. Well, there we go, it's a Cocoa Grow seed and cutting compost plus perlite. So there we go. So what I'm going to do is, we've got to soak this. This makes up to about 15 litres of compost, or growing medium should we call it. That needs to soak in that water, and these pea tendrils, these also need soaking for a few hours. So by the magic of videography and a bit of YouTube voodoo, we'll be back here tomorrow with soaked peas and soaked coir. So by YouTube voodoo or videography magic, I'm back with soaked seeds and soaked coir. Now, this coir actually is quite amazing. So I've only really used it in a couple of little tiny trays before, where somebody gave me some to try, and at the time I wasn't that impressed, but I've since learned that with coir you've got to put the feed in. It's an inert material, but as a medium goes, it's nice, light and fluffy. It's going to hold seeds well, and what I like about it is if I do this and just squeeze it, you can see the moisture that's in there. So it's got a moisture retentive ability, just needs some feed in there. Now, I believe this has already got some in, and I'm going to test that fact. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's got a little bit of feed in. But anyway, with seeds like these, a seed is a self-contained unit and has everything it needs to come up and start growing. After that, it will, it needs some additional feed. But what I reckon is I can grow these in here, soon find out if it's got some feed in it or not, and if it hasn't, I can just liquid feed, and that will get me out of that hole. So I've got this, I've got my trays here. I'll just quickly go over these again. These trays are 10 inches by 20 inches. They're by Garland, and as I say, Ian McAndrew at Grown Local sent me these, and one is a growing tray, Microgreen's growing tray, and the other is the reservoir that obviously fits into there, and it holds the moisture. Now I've had a look at these Garland trays, and to be honest with you, I was looking at Ian's site as well. They're cheaper on Ian's site, cheapest that I could find. So I'll put a link in there, obviously, because he was kind enough to send these to me, and you can go and get all the some if you want. Now, for this seems to be a sort of a standard size tray for microgreens. This 10 inch by 20 inch. From what I can gather, what I can make out, it's a standard size tray. And Ian also sent me a few links, and one of them was to a calculator to work out how much seed by weight you should be sowing in one of these trays. So I've gone there and I've used the calculator, and I made a bit of a graph or a graphic up, which I'll put up in a little while. You can just pause the video and screenshot it or take a photo of it, and it'll give you an idea of how much seed to sow per this size tray, basically. And you can calculate from there down your tray sizes. I mean, if you're going to use a tray like this, it's roughly half the size, near as damn it. But anyway, moving on. I'll put that up a bit later. I'll just get on with this bit for now. So I'm putting this medium in just to fill it up. You want it right to the edges and right to the corners, because if you can't hold the moisture, excuse me, your microgreens will just flop over. So now that I'm reasonably happy that it's in all the corners and edges, just take the tray from underneath and use that to just flatten it down. And we're now ready for sowing. Now on that list I was just telling you about, that graphic, it mentions a weight, and there are two weights on there. There is an ideal weight and there is a safe weight. And what one means opposed to the other, the safe weight is slightly less, so a slightly less dense amount of seeds on top of your growing medium, and it's a safe weight because there's less chance of there being mould. Mould is one of the main issues of microgreen growers. So the safe weight for these trays was, I think, 150 grams, and the ideal weight was about 200. It just so works out that here I've got 340 grams, so in two trays that's 170, so it's somewhere between the two. I'm more than happy with that. And all I'm going to do is just sow these. I'll spread them out a little bit once I've got them on here. And I'll bring you back when I've spaced them out. So I've got all these seeds, pea seeds, spread out now, as rough as I can, as best I can. And now what you're meant to do is take the whole tray and the reservoir now and put it on top of the next one, and then you get another tray, another reservoir, just as a top to hold that down, and then put a weight on that, a brick. The idea being the brick keeps these together and it makes these plants grow stronger, so that when you've got germination in the trays underneath, you lift it and have a look. Once you've got trays with germination, they're already strong little sprouting seeds and they'll get away better because of it. So that's the idea with that, is just to put a couple of bricks on there and then go and stack them up for 4 or 5 days until you've got the germination. So that's those. We'll move on. I've got some more seeds. Really, Steve, you've got seeds? Gosh. Now, the reason these trays are shallow, well, you can see the difference here between the two tray sizes. I'll just lift this one out. This is about 3 times the depth. Just uses a tremendous amount of growing medium. That's why these trays are shallow, because they only need to sprout, grow a couple of inches, and then you're going to harvest them anyway. You don't need to use a great deal. Now, I've put compost in this one, and I took a tip when I posted my microgreen video. I think it was 6-7 days ago. A chap called Genghis come on, and he mentioned having a look on Amazon to see if I could buy seed by the pound. Well, you can. And I bought some coriander. Being an ex-chef, I love and adore my herbs, and I've got a good idea how to use them. I mean, coriander, for many years now, I've put it in salads, and as others have said to me, Ian said to me, you can put it in curries. I actually like it chopped up in a pilau rice, or just on a sandwich. So I've got a great big bag of coriander there. I think it's 250 grams, so half a pound. And I'm going to sow this onto here and grow these as a microgreen and see how we get on. These are unsoaked. Hopefully, I think these are small enough that they won't need soaking. I haven't checked, I'm just doing it as I think or feel. And I'll add this to the pea stack that I've just sown a couple of minutes ago, so that they get that press-in time. I think we're just about there, to be honest. And hopefully, in a week or two's time, I'll have a nice little harvest of coriander microgreens. That will be absolutely fantastic. Really happy about this, and thanks Genghis for the tip on that. But moving on slightly, I didn't just buy coriander. Oh no, it's seeds. What am I going to do? Excuse me. Right, I've got another one here, and this is rocket. So I'm going to sow this as a baby leaf, really, in this tray. We adore rocket. Again, it's a lovely little thing to have as an addition to a sandwich, or just with some meats, you know. Love that peppery taste. So, going pretty mad with the seed there. I will try these as a microgreen later, but for now I'm just going to have that as a sprouting sort of lettuce and chop it when I get up here. So nice big handfuls of it to go with meals. So there we go. And they said these are relatively cheap. I think this thing of rocket, that's 250 grams again, and I think that was about £7 or £8. And when you equate that to the packet of seeds you'll buy, when you're buying them individually, and that's why you're paying more for them, because they are packed individually, be a couple of quid for a gram or so, you know. But that's probably 2 packets of that I've just sown there, and I've still got, well, this will keep me going until well into the year after next, I think. But anyway, there we go. Have a look for that if you want to buy in bulk. Right, so that's all that sowing done. I shall put these coriander seeds in that stack with the peas, and then I'll water everything. I'll cover this one with compost. But next, we'll go and have a look at the microgreens that I've already sowed last week. Right, so here we are up at the where I put the microgreens, and the lid, which is now at the back, came off about 3 days ago because I had germination in here, notably this Chinese cabbage over here and this broccoli at the back. And you can see I've got red ruble kale there. This one here is a basil. Not doing much, but there is 1 or 2 roots just starting there. The beetroot's a little bit slower, it always is. Incidentally, you can see all these little fine hairs here. This isn't mould. This is the, I think they call it siphy. I'll write it on the screen. It's what they call those tiny roots on an emerging seedling. Anyway, it's quite interesting that. So it's not mould, it's just the roots because the seed is sown on the surface. And this one is a red cabbage. Very little activity here on the carrots. I think I saw one sprouting earlier, could be wrong. And the onions, they're just starting to get going. So all in all, we're off and running really, and it's to see what happens next. I say we're at 6-7 days at the minute. I knew it was going to be slow because we're not growing under lights. You can grow under lights if you want to. I'll actually move that tray out of the way and it'll get more light. Right, it'll get more light from this back area now. So yeah, all in all, I'm fairly pleased. I should think another week and we'll be eating these, which is fantastic. So here's that graphic I promised earlier, and it just shows you the amount of seed by weight, what you should be sowing in a 10-inch by 20-inch tray, and you can adjust these amounts to suit the size of tray that you're growing in. Better to use a thinner tray than a thicker tray. You'll use less medium and keep that cost down. But yeah, just feel free to pause the video, take a screenshot or take a photograph on your phone, whatever you want to do, just to give you an idea to get started. I will put the link for that calculator in the description, as well as Ian's site links, Ian McAndrew's site link for Grown Local, because his Garland trays are the cheapest I could find. So go and check those links out in the description just below. Don't forget to hit subscribe there as well, so that you can follow on and see what happens with these microgreens, how well they grow, and everything else on the plot, you know. So there we go. So hopefully you've got something from this video all about growing microgreens and the baby leaves. So this video and the other one, I'll put a little card up there again, so you can see how I'm doing this. Well, I think that's about it for now. I'm going to get on, and I need to clear this bed behind me, this butternut squash area, get that cleared out of the way. So I'll carry on with that, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Please stay safe. Ta-ra now.